everybody. My name is Amy Edwards. I am currently studying early childhood education and early childhood special education in hopes to become a teacher in an elementary school, with working with either kindergarten or first grade students. I also would like to work with special education students, as I am doing right now in a school. Today, I want to talk to you about the importance of reading instruction and the science of reading in early childhood education, which is kindergarten through third grade students. I want to start off by talking about the importance of explicit instruction when working with early childhood education. So within my readings for this week, we were talking about how when kids are young, when they're babies, they can learn to walk on their own, they could learn to talk on their own, and this is something that comes naturally to them. It's not something that they have to learn how to do. When they hear a sound, they can repeat it back to you and then learn how to talk through that. Similar with walking, they kind of motion, they pick up the motion and they are able to learn how to do it. It's a little bit different when learning, such as like learning mathematics or learning how to play in a specific instrument, but it's also the same with reading. So reading does not come naturally to the brain. Explicit reading instruction in early childhood, like kindergarten or first grade, is very, very important as it builds a foundation of reading throughout education. So when students are learning how to read, it's important to give them the proper instruction so that they're successful throughout their education career and into their adult life. In reading, in the science of reading, there are neural pathways in our brain that support reading, and they're only built through explicit reading instruction. So connecting speech sounds with visual images through specific phonological and decoding instruction supports early learners within learning how to read. It's really important to know what strategies to use and what things to teach early childhood education students so that they can hear sounds the correct way, they can see words the correct way in order to break them apart and put them back together. So like I said, reading does not come naturally to the brain, something that has to be learned, but it's not always easy for every single student. Oftentimes, students may struggle with a disability that can prohibit them learning specific strategies or certain skills that they need to successfully read. One of these disabilities that may arise is dyslexia. I know personally in my life, I have never struggled with that sort of situation, whereas my sister has struggled with dyslexia before. Sometimes she has a difficult time pronouncing words or spelling certain words, and there's just different ways that affects different people. So even after explicit reading instruction, students who are diagnosed with dyslexia will continue to need support in order to comprehend and understand reading and literacy materials. They may not recognize the word the same as someone else because it might look different even though it's the same thing. They might hear the sound differently or they might say the sound differently, and so therefore it's a little more difficult for them. And so, according to the International Dyslexia Association in Ontario, they stated that when a child struggles with decoding, fluency is decreased. So when they can't break apart the sounds or the syllables of the words, their fluency, how well they read the words or how quickly they read the words, is going to be lower. Their accuracy is comprised. They might not be able to accurately pronounce the word, and so therefore they're not going to understand what is being spoken through the text that they might be reading. There's going to be a lot of errors, and the energy needed for comprehension is going to be depleted by the effort required to simply decode. So dyslexia targets speech, it targets reading, and it also targets other language skills such as like writing. Students with dyslexia require additional support with skills such as phonological processing, language organization, comprehension, and spelling. Oftentimes, extensive intervention for dyslexic students will be necessary, not in every situation, but in severe situations, some students may even qualify for special education accommodations just so that they could target where these students need specific help when reading. Something that I've found out recently about reading is really, really interesting. Dr. Hollis Scarborough created this approach to understanding reading strategies called Scarborough's Reading Rope, which is something that was really new to me, so I found it really interesting. And he states that reading strategies correspond together to support fluent reading comprehension, and so I'll just explain to you how that works. He said that there's two different parts. There's one part that is language comprehension, which is your background knowledge, your vocabulary, the structure of the language. And the second part is the word recognition. So that's going to be your phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. Dr. Scarborough described these two parts as intertwining together in order to support one another so that students can successfully read and understand what they are reading. So I've been talking about all of these different things like phonological awareness, decoding. Let me just tell you a little bit about each one of these components that's necessary for students to read. So there's several components within the science of reading that all influence successful reading comprehension skills. First, I'm going to talk about phonemic awareness. This explains different sounds of letters, syllables inside of words that all form together within spoken language to form the words. Phonics is similar. It incorporates phonemic awareness, and it takes it a step further by relating the sounds to the letters that represent the sounds within written language. So phonics incorporates the sound from the phonemic awareness, and then it incorporates the sight of the word or of the letter, and together that works together to form phonics. Next, we're going to talk about fluency. Fluency demonstrates the recognition of words and reading with accuracy and promptly. Reading fluency is a critical factor necessary for reading comprehension. If children read out loud with speed, accuracy, and proper expression, they are more likely to comprehend and remember the material than if they read with difficulty and in an inefficient way. And this is found in the Science of Reading, written by Beth Antunes, and it just explains kind of where students can lack if they struggle with certain areas. Next, we're going to talk about vocabulary development. This is also another component in the science of reading that is crucial for comprehension. Vocabulary knowledge supports reading through giving students information about what the words mean. So when students see a word, they can know from their vocabulary knowledge and vocabulary development what is going to be spoken about. Readers cannot understand the content of what they are reading unless they understand the meaning of the majority of the words in the text. And that's also from Miss Beth Antunes in the article that I read from her. That just kind of explains that when students don't understand certain words that are in their reading, they're not going to understand what the reading is about, and so therefore they won't comprehend it normally. There's a few instructional strategies that we can bring up when teaching students these skills that they need to read and comprehend what they're reading. One way that I really like to do is modeling, blending, and segmenting letter sounds and syllables of words. This helps show students how to decode words by visualizing the word and hearing the strategy. So in doing this, you can use flashcards and show students just the letter flashcard, or you could use sight words, let's say, and break up the sight words to show students that this is how they can sound out the word by breaking it apart and then putting it back together. This supports both phonemic awareness and phonics skills. Next, we have providing glossaries and emphasizing important information. This is really important because it shows students exactly what they need to be knowing and understanding. And when we do that, when we support those things, it supports their vocabulary development because they can see certain words that they could focus on and maybe go back and look at what it is. And it targets important words and important information that they need to know. So in all of this, I just want to say that reading and the science of reading, teaching students proper reading comprehension skills is very important when they're in early childhood education. Now, when they have a good foundation in this, it's going to support them throughout their whole education. Thank you.